So the question becomes, why would they put the ban on menthol cigarettes, right? I mean, I'm all for it. It's a beautiful thing to hear about that we're moving towards greater health, but I'm a little bit more skeptical, right? I'm a little bit more intelligent to know that the government, these FDAs, and the people who control these stocks, the people who control this government, wants population control. So why would they target the ban on menthol cigarettes towards the African American community? While they spent decades, and I mean decades, targeting the African American community on menthol alone. For the last 10 years, menthol cigarettes is the only flavored cigarettes that's even legal. Correct? As far as flavored cigarettes. And they spent billions of dollars on marketing advertisements, right? We're talking about the Cool Jazz Festival, right? We're talking about them using James Brown's songs inside of cigarette ads. Back when cigarette ads was on TV, the cigarette companies was one of the first people to show African Americans in a positive light on their cigarette ads, right? James Brown and baseball players and musicians and actors all over these cigarette ads. Why would they invest that much money to turn around decades later and try to save the people? Don't think that these people had an epiphany in the middle of court because they have been going through court fighting legal regulations for decades. You think they had an epiphany in the middle of the court like, oh yeah, we need to start saving these blacks in America. No, not at all, right? So 85.8 is the percentage of African Americans who use menthol. Only 28.7 is white. Why would they get rid of their main customers? It is not truly making sense, right? First things I would have to think about is stocks. Let's look up Philip Morris here. Philip Morris International, which is one of the top manufacturing tobacco companies in America, right? Pull them up here. Their headquarters is founded in New York. Founded in 1847. They've been marketing and advertisement and scheming since 1847 in New York, correct? They are promising, Philip Morris promises to deliver a smoke-free future. Why would they do this, correct? You start looking up Philip Morris, you start looking up the stocks, and you start understanding why, correct? It's a battle of money. It's a battle of income. It's a battle of currency here. Now, when you own a business like this, you are in tune with your main customers. You have this sort of manipulative care for your customers, correct? You want to keep them comfortable so they continue to buy your product. So since things are getting out of hand in the courts, since things are getting out of hand with stocks, they're starting to have a little bit of troubles. See, now, this is how you know that it's not about saving the black community. It's not about health. Because if it was about health, they would be banning the menthol flavor in the e-cigarettes. But there's no talk about the menthol in e-cigarettes. And they have just reports for the last 5 years about how deadly these e-cigarettes was, correct? And how a gateway way more than the natural cigarette was. So why we're not speaking about e-cigarettes? Now, another thing is that the ACLU had linked a report speaking about crime, that they were worried that they placed a ban onto menthol cigarettes, that the main consumers, hence African Americans, would proceed to large levels of crime based on health and harm reductions. Correct? What they are trying to measure down is if they take the menthol cigarette from the African American, will he become more aggressive? Him not having the cooling sensation of the propentha, which is the true botanical that they're using, if you take it from you and you take the cooling sensation from the African American, will he become more aggressive? Will he act out in violence more, commit more crimes more? Correct? And this goes into the mental stress, manipulative systems and strategic schematics that they have to place upon the African American community in America. So what they're trying to do is make you more aggravated. They're trying to make you more aggressive. We're already dealing with the coronavirus, correct? We're already dealing with the vaccines. We're dealing with poverty. So what they're going to try to do is take anything that can soothe that pain away from you. Now, I also want to talk about the immune system of the African American community since I brought up the virus. See, what they expected and they miscalculated is that this virus was going to wipe out large amounts of African Americans. That's why you seen when it first hit, it was a large amount of African Americans inside of Africa who was getting the virus, and they made this big thing because it was supposed to target African Americans and wipe us out on a large abundance. But once they seen it didn't, then they started to understand that we have been engaging in toxins for the last 100 years based off the government, correct? We had crack cocaine, we had alcohol, we had bad food, bad air, bad water, and menthol cigarettes. In the end, what happened with our communities is we built these immune systems higher than our African genome even had. So we started engaging in toxins. And throughout the last 100 years, we have adapted to these toxins. So we started dying at a lesser rate. Correct? Now, we still have a problem with the death rate of menthol cigarettes and just smoking in general. Not in the African American community, just people in general. 480,000 individuals is accounted for dying every year in America from cigarette smoke. Correct? Now, a U.S. surgeon had strategically and systematically just said on, I forget which news cast it was, but it was April 29th. The U.S. surgeon said that they are targeting blacks, LGBT, and people of poor communities. This is a subliminal message saying they're granting you everything I just told you. They're going to say that they're worried about you, but what they're really trying to do is test experiments to see how you're going to react from not having soothers, from stress, from anxiety, from poverty, from oppression. Correct? In 1953, like I say, 5% of African Americans were smokers of menthol. In 2000s, it rose up to 80%. This is 75% over 5 decades, correct? We have to understand that these FDA companies, these Philip Morris companies, these menthol companies and cigarette companies, they don't play about their bread. They don't play about their products, correct? And the reason why I say this is because if you remember correctly, it was bootleg Nike shoes going around maybe about 10 years ago. Who you think shut down those bootleg Nike shoes? The bootleg Nike shoe was the Nike sign turned upside down. It looked just like the Newport sign. The Newport company is the ones who banned the bootleg shoe, who put the lawsuit onto the people who was making the bootleg shoe. These companies don't play games. Newport had a van that used to roll around black communities handing out cigarettes. We know about the candy cigarettes. Correct? We know about all of the, like I say, the James Browns being in the commercials. You know, those was our idols. Those was our icons that they were putting in. Those, the great baseball players and the great movie stars and the sex icons around that time. We looked up to these people. As soon as we got the TV, we was glued to the TV. Anybody who was an icon who had success, we looked up to those people. So if James Brown's smoking a Newport, I think it's okay to, my grandfather thought it was okay to smoke a Newport. Correct? We have to understand that all of this is systematic veils going on that really have nothing to do with us. We cannot be naive and think that these companies want to protect our health after we see that they gave us the toxins and the poisons for the last 50 to 100 years. We have to be intelligent maneuvering around these manufacturing companies and production companies and the government, the FDAs and the CDCs and etc. So the ban on menthol is probably a ban on longevity. And the reason why I say this is because I think about them legalizing shrooms, them legalizing marijuana. And they're probably going to start putting toxins and poisons inside of the psychedelics and psychoactive substances that we love so much because they don't have to poison you with cigarettes anymore. Because people was reducing in cigarettes and eating shrooms more. People are reducing in cigarettes and smoking weed more. So they're going to be intelligent and get these substances, this mercury and aluminums, they're going to get them inside of you. We have to be intelligent to learn how to maneuver around them and become optimal health beings at all costs. Power is ultimate, families. Everybody stay healthy out there.